All right, so customizing curtain wall types. Automatically embed, join condition, display and hidden views, and then grid pattern layout. And modifying the pin panels and mullions, pin with care, and then we're going to continue on with creating more custom curtain panels. All right, so curtain wall storefront, as you can see, I've drawn one here. Now, if we just go into the parameters of the wall itself, of the type, this will affect all the walls that are drawn with curtain wall storefront type. So as you see, there are properties. In the properties palette, there are some settings that we can and cannot touch. And then within the type properties, family type properties, you'll see that there are 3 types of curtain walls. But those types of curtain walls can be 3 different types of walls. So you can interchange curtain walls and curtain wall types. You can interchange curtain wall types with wall families, which have a recursive reference. Curtain wall referencing a curtain wall is a recursive reference. All right, so we have the storefront selected, and as you can see, we have all these parameters. Now, the first parameter we talked about was automatically embed. Now, automatically embed just basically means that if we draw a regular wall, right? If we draw a regular exterior brick on CMU, well, that's the brick on CMU. So, unfortunately, I selected the type. So let's create this, let's make this exterior brick on CMU. Let's put the brick on the exterior, huh? Mike? Let's keep the brick on the exterior. So to automatically embed, so let's take a look at this from the front. Let me move this over a little bit so you can get a little more of a horizontal wall here. Drag this over. All right, so let's go back to wall, type, storefront, and it'll automatically embed. So if I start the wall here, I draw just like there, you'll see the small wall in the 3D view in the upper left-hand corner. But if I draw it into the wall, it'll embed. It'll embed in the wall. Isn't that handy? As you can see, it'll automatically embed. And you can see how this particular wall is already got parameters set. It divided the vertical mullion. It put the curtain wall in a definition of 4 vertical mullions, no horizontal mullions. So again, we can continue along and embed it in the wall. Oops, that's a little bit on the horizontal, on the diagonal, but that's okay. I see. Understand what that entails. Now, again, you can see now that this wall, I can't change the length of this wall, but if I select the mullion, the curtain wall, the storefront, I can drag it deeper into the wall, and you'll notice that the length of the wall is going to dictate the distance between the vertical mullions, right? So you can see that it's staying equidistant. The mullion location is staying equidistant relative to the length of the wall. So again, if we look at the properties of this wall, the vertical grid number is set to 4. Justification is at the beginning. If I said center, you'll see it'll adjust based on your base point. So center is always good, but it was default to beginning. Now this is something that's going to blow your mind. That is something that you can achieve if you, wait, I don't think I did it the right way. I didn't do it this way. I did it better the other way. Oh, it's supposed to blow your mind, but it didn't. It's like the whole curtain wall. You can change the angle of the mullions. And notice how they join. Notice how they join. Again, remember, all the materials on these mullions can be set. All the materials can be set. So if you look at it rendered in the rendering engine, we have a stacked wall. Right? We have a stacked wall. And we created a curtain wall pattern between. And we didn't set any of the join conditions, but we did automatically embed the curtain wall system to include horizontal and vertical mullions. Now, the vertical mullions are equally spaced because the grid pattern layout was already set, which we can manipulate. So, if we take a look at this one, we're going to go to this one and manipulate this one. Hold on. When you're rendering in a rendering engine, you don't have the luxury sometimes of just changing the camera as it's rendering. You have to actually, you got to catch a wavelength, because you're trying to interleave a message into. It can be tricky. Once you get it, you'll get it though. There it is. I'm going to get into a view that I want. Let's just, let me see something really quick. Alright, so let's go back into Revit. Let's take a look at this wall. Select the whole wall by hitting tab if you can't get it. Now we have this whole wall. Now we talked about automatically embedding, and I jumped ahead a little bit. Let's talk about join conditions. Well, if we go to the edit property type, join conditions are border and horizontal grid continuous. Well, if I was to say not defined, and I was to hit apply, this is going to apply for all of them. I'll be able to define the join condition. Make continuous, break, right? If I break it or make continuous, go straight through the join condition. Now that applies to the whole entire wall type, and that applies over here as well, right? Make continuous, break, make continuous, right? Break. That's the wall condition. Now, if that wall type had a parameter set that was defined, vertical grid continuous, horizontal grid continuous, continuous or break, right? So if we hit vertical grid continuous and I hit apply, and I went back to the mullion, make continuous, break at join. That's an existing wall. And if we go to the wall again, and as a type, vertical grid continuous, border and horizontal, border and the interior grid, border and horizontal grid continuous, vertical grid continuous, horizontal grid continuous, border and vertical grid continuous, border and horizontal grid continuous. So think about that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, but within the last 2 variables, each of them constrain 2 different elements of the wall family. So Let's go border and horizontal grid conditions. We apply. Draw it. Join conditions. Let's draw it again with not defined. Now, as you can see, it's default. It's not defined yet. So it gives you the option of creating it any way you want. It's similar, but it's different. You can play with that, and you'll be able to give it any type of joining condition you want. Displayed and hidden views is something I want to skip over for now, because it has to do with creating filters. Because curtain walls and walls can be hidden. If you hide walls in a visibility graphic override, then you're going to hide all the walls, inclusive of curtain walls. So you have to filter the curtain walls out from the walls in order to create a condition that when a wall is hidden, the curtain wall is shown. Not only that, but you have to create a condition where the mullion is shown, the panel is shown or hidden, and any connection component within the system that you built has to have a visibility graphic associated with it, so that it will have a visibility parameter that you can filter out or not filter out. And this may have been alleviated in this version because it's not a parameter. We can create a parameter, but the parameter is removed for a reason. So I'm not going to just spend an eternity on it unless it becomes a problem. Grid pattern layout fixed distance. Well, if we look at the type properties of this particular wall, and with the parameters, the vertical grid is a fixed number with a spacing of 5 feet. Now adjust for mullion size. Let's take a look. Hit apply. As you see, the mullion just maintained that 5 foot by equidistantly becoming smaller in width. Now, that's a fixed number. A fixed distance is defaulted to 5 foot. We apply. It's defaulted to 5 foot. Okay. Now, the other one, maximum spacing. Maximum spacing, 1 foot. Just gonna think. Mullions have lost references as a result of the grid lines changing color. These mullions must be deleted. Well, maximum spacing 5 feet. Apply. Maximum spacing 6 feet. Apply. Now, if you look, I zoom in. Maximum space, it gave us a trim piece. That doesn't help us. So, if you hold it to maximum number, you're going to have to draw the wall the maximum size to ensure that it maximizes the number of panels. So if the maximum number the fixed, I had it on fixed distance. If the fixed distance is 6 feet, you're going to, in order to get, it's going to divide the panel up into 6-foot panels, regardless of the length of the wall that you draw. So if you draw the wall 6 foot, if you draw the wall 14 feet, you're going to get 2 panels and then a 2-foot piece, right? So think of that in those terms. Now, again, fixed number, adjust for mullion size, apply, and that number is a number that you can set. So vertical grid is in this wall is set to 2, and that number is a variable. Now it's a variable. So a fixed number is something you can manipulate now within the properties dialog box. Justification from the center, and we can make this 35 degrees. So as you can see, there's so much you can do. Now, think about this. If you wanted to create an individual fixed panel with a surface, you can apply an image to that surface. Again, if we're talking analytical and aesthetics, if you're planning for the future and you want to just really, really get creative with your abstract ideas, an image, maybe an advertisement, a pretty girl, a pretty object, an alluring skin, a pattern, a color, a material, a surface. So changing the material surfaces of this pattern are going to have 2 effects. The material surfaces of these panels are going to have lots of effects, inclusive of the patterns and the materials that you apply to the surfaces of the mullions and what they're made of, because you can customize all that. So, again, you always have to keep advertisements in mind, because some walls are so big that there's so much space that you want to maximize and capitalize on all the spaces that you're going to be investing in. So I always keep the advertising aspect of it important, because a vertex is part of a triangle. So that's why I always run back to that. Advertising is important. And when you spend most of your time in engineering and construction, you are separate from the marketing and advertising side of it. And eye candy and eye source are what dictate your traffic. So, again, that particular wall, if I can select a wall system, curtain wall, that type had a fixed number. So we're talking about maximum spacing, minimum spacing. If you give it a maximum spacing of 6 feet, that's the max. If you give it a minimum spacing of 6 feet, and let's compare and contrast. Maximum, maximize the 6-foot spacing. Minimize, maximize, minimize, maximize. All right, so that's going to be a bipolar transistor, just like anything else, and you're going to have to discern based on the cusp of that tool. Now, mullions, again, we have no horizontal mullions, right? We didn't define them. So let's now create another wall. Somewhere in here we can look at. Let's create it behind this wall. Curtain wall, storefront, horizontal grid, vertical grid. We see there's no parameters set. Let's take a look. Vertical grid, horizontal grid, layout, none. Let's go with a number and a number. I think that gives you a lot more versatility. So look, we have an 8-foot, we have an 8-foot and a 6-foot. And now, if you think about that, let's apply it. We have two grayed out numbers, 6 by 8. A 6 by 8 grid. Now notice it changed everything. It changed all of the mullions, vertically and horizontally, in the type. So it's fixed. And we'll just take a look at it, and we have to go back and talk about one other thing. So now, if you notice though, the parameter that was set for this wall, well actually all the walls I should say, has an angle of 35, right? Now 8 foot, 4 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot. Well, based on the number, one set to beginning, one set to center. So let's set this to center. Now you can see how instead of drawing curtain grids on curtain wall panels, you could start to create parameters prior to drawing the wall. And being that it embeds in other walls, you'll find that you're not trimming and orthographically extending 2D design elements to give you your other views. This bidirectional associativity is what sells the software, and if you're still so antiquated in the AutoCAD LT, MicroStation, and whatever, Google, SketchUp, AutoCAD LT, AutoCAD MEP, there's so many parameters that you could set and save yourself hundreds, thousands of man hours. It costs them the labor, not to mention the coordination nightmare as they're rushing to conform, to put together a set of shop drawings based on a format that they don't know how to utilize, utilizing platforms that they don't know how to utilize as an organization. So shh, don't say anything. This is between you and I. I'm sole proprietorship. This is a women minority-owned business enterprise. If it's always a women minority-owned business, well, then, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Chiquita Banana Girl taught me that. It's a man's world. It's a women's minority-owned business. So pin with care. Okay, so you can also construct all these wall segments and their borders and interior splicing, because you're going to be able to control each type of mullion. A mullion, an L into a quad into a V, or a trapezoid into an L, excuse me. Just be careful. Just be careful when you're drawing your wall, and you have this setting set with all these different mullions. Well, you could have a border on both. You have a border on both sides of the wall. You have a border on the left side of the wall and the right side of the wall. The right side of the wall may be the return to where the wall turns, and that's for the vertical mullion, right? And that's for if you put a border on think of it like Microsoft Excel. You put a border on top, border on bottom, border around the cell. You select all the cells, you put a thick border, and then the interior cells can have the thinner border. It's just like that. It's just like Microsoft Excel. So the border type 1 is going to be the left side, or it depends on which way you draw on the wall. But let's just say you draw a wall from left to right. The border type 1 is going to be rectangular, 2.5 by 5 inch on the left side of the wall, vertically. And on the right side of the wall, where you ended it, if you didn't do a return, and if you did, there's going to be a rectangular mullion as well. That doesn't have to always be the case, but you have to remember where it joins into the other wall, if it's not set the same way. Well, it will be, because you're going to be you're changing the type parameter. But if you have two different wall types, by duplicating it and changing these parameters, then you're going to have to be careful how you join them, right? You'll be careful how you join different mullion shapes and profiles. So the good thing is that there's so much of that customization built into the software platform, whereas the bad thing for any other user of other platforms has to understand that the platform they're using may be written by a firm that didn't really write it with the architects or the engineers or the owners or the operators or the users client in mind. So lots of folks dismiss software, but the software communicates with the hardware. Hardware is used to fabricate. It's a tool. It's a tool, and I know I laugh because sometimes, you have to, because it can easily be dismissed as just this medium for entertainment purposes. How you use a computer is going to dictate a lot. It's going to dictate a lot. Whether you are transmitting or receiving, and it doesn't matter to a certain extent what your preference is. It matters how you program based on that. How are you programmed? What's your major malfunction? What's your major malfunction, man? I understand that this software is complicated, but what's your major malfunction? Are you not cognizant of the fact that technology can be vicious? It can be vicious. What's your major malfunction? I don't understand why you don't want to subscribe to the software. So when I get my walking papers and I have to deploy again, I'm going to let you know ahead of time. I'm not going to get an attitude problem about whatever software platform you pick. I'm going to let your staff dictate what platform I use to draw, and I'm not going to let them know that I already know what platform they should have selected to articulate the project. That's not my job. My job isn't to staff your firm with engineers or engineering managers or BIM practitioners or directors of construction or VPs of engineering or chief engineers. That's not my job. I'm not in staffing. I'm not in human resources. I'm more of an analyst, and the older I get, and the more and more and more that I'm required to produce, the less and less and less I feel that my job entails the selection of the characters that are in collaboration with the overall project. I can only answer for myself. If I had a staff, I can answer for them, but I can't answer for the staff. All I could do is conform with the staff's wishes. In a sole proprietorship, it's only you, right? It's only you. There isn't an organization other than the entity, right? There isn't an organization other than the entity. So I'm going to let this run to end this video. And let's just start at the first slide. And remember that this was developed with the BIM project execution planning procedure by the Penn State CIC research team. And this document is a universal resource. And it's located at hypertext transfer protocol //worldwideweb.engr directory switch dir/p psu.edu dir/p ae dir/p cic dir/p BIMEX CD ... format C, burn to disk. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I have to chuckle a little bit because I can only, I empathize with what entry-level green engineers have to go through. Not to mention organized labor. We're talking technical here, but the labor end of it is comical. The labor end of it, because everybody knows that numbers don't lie. So sophisticated firms will staff their teams with folks that know about numbers, that numbers don't lie. They just don't lie. So let's just let this run for a second. It's a few levels, so I got to click. I haven't formatted this yet. So before we even get into this, and we're going to have to get into this too, there's a lot of triangles, a lot of rectangles, there's a lot of org charts. There's a lot of org charts, and these people in positions of power with all this money. I met so many of them. Some of these firms, they're controlled by one guy, one girl. They got so much money. They could buy. What are you building? Sure, I've got the cash flow for it, and therein lies the humor. They've got such deep pockets. You know you don't. You know you don't as an organization. You know whether or not you do, you don't, I should say. I'm not going to be the guy that goes out and spends $10 million on switchgear. I'll be the guy that's smart enough not to be asleep at the switch. But know that I've been weathered